jump on and be able to hear some of what we're talking about tonight. So I know a lot of people on this call were at convention with us, which was amazing. We got to learn some amazing things. So thank you all for jumping on here, but some people weren't at convention, so I'm glad that you were able to jump on because it truly was just an amazing convention. It was my third one, and I have never had more belief in this company than I do now. And I truly believe that this company is going in the right direction with everything that they're doing with gut health. You know, they just launched these amazing new products, and they're really starting to focus in a hot new, it's not new, but it's a hot area of science that even me in pharmaceuticals, I hear quite a bit about the microbiome. Shawn, I'm going to ask you to talk about the microbiome in terms that we can understand.
Of course.
Not necessarily as a doctor of microbiology, but if you could explain it to us so we can kind of understand what the microbiome is.
Well, sure. Thanks, Liza. So the microbiome, we are made up of about 75 trillion human cells. That's what makes up you and me. But in addition to that, there's about 10 times more bacteria that live on and in us. So if you were looking at us as an individual, we're actually more bacterial by count than we are human. What that means is that we are surrounded by and completely filled with gut bacteria and skin bacteria, which are both an important part of our immune system, but they also provide, especially in the gut, some very important symbiotic relationships. So without these bacteria, we can't survive. So things like vitamin K production and blood clotting, things like some fatty acid molecules, some important molecules in our diet are produced by or are broken down by or made more available by these bacteria. And these bacteria populate our gut. We're born with a clean gut. And that's a really interesting area of research. How is it that we as humans get our microbiome populated? And basically as little kids, we're very oral and we're sticking our hands in everything and people are kissing on us. And as we get older, we establish that microbiome. I've been saying for years and talking with my students for years that I suspect that within the next 20 years at birth, physicians will inoculate us at birth with a bolus of healthy bacteria that they know will set up our gut health in a good way. In fact, that's already started. There are now people who are receiving boluses of bacteria to help make up for whatever number of conditions. So we're starting to recognize more and more that the bacteria in us are not just there as a byproduct of our digestive system, but are a vital part of who we are and how we function. So many of the products that Plexus is putting out right now are, as Liza said, very hot. Right now it's a Tropicana that now has probiotics in some of their juices. I mean, you can't get away from this word right now, probiotics. And basically what that means is that these are products that contain within them bacteria. So yogurt is yogurt has probiotics. Sauerkraut has it. There are different food products that we're already accustomed to eating that have bacteria in them. But what's exciting about some of the Plexus products is that they have in their probiotics specifically listed and put in there bacteria that have been clinically proven to do certain things. So in the new Vital Biome, without going too far, some of the bacteria in there have been shown to increase mood. Some have been known to increase other biomarkers. And so they've been very, very intentional about what's in there. Now that's different than yogurt. When you get yogurt, that is a natural culture. Those are important, but no one that I know of is putting certain strains of bacteria into yogurt to benefit our gut. So that's what's different. Yes, we can eat yogurt. Yes, we can do things to increase our microbiome, but are we intentionally putting certain organisms into us that are known to have very positive effects? So I'll stop there and then entertain any questions and add to that in any way you'd like me to.
Oh yeah, I'll be having you add. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's awesome. Thank you. You know, Cindy Latham got up at convention and talked about so many people live in a state of dysbiosis, which is it's an imbalance of the bacteria, good versus bad. So if they know that and they recognize that, why does the medical community not really, they don't really promote, I mean, they talk about probiotics, but they don't really recognize how many health conditions. Do you know why they don't really focus on that more?
I think part of it, this is just my educated guess, is that it hasn't been measurable. You know, we don't go down to our doctor, give them a fecal sample and have them measure certain bacteria. That sounds disgusting, but we don't do that. So I think it's been really difficult to quantify. And up until now, there haven't been that many specific bacterial strains available at GNC or through Plexus that have addressed some of these issues. So I think now that the what was once considered very peripheral, sort of sideline science has come front and center with probiotics and prebiotics. It's become a very important part of the medical conversation. So I think now doctors are much more mindful of it, but it just wasn't well understood. Probiotics was over in the naturopath side. It wasn't in your general physician or specialist or internist vocabulary. And yeah, maybe because there's no money in it either, as Beth just said. You know, what was the market for the physician? They may be saying, hey, go do this. But because there was no test, no procedure, nothing that would benefit the doctor directly, now that they're all, money hounds, but there was really nothing that they could do to address it. And it was very anecdotal, right? Extremely anecdotal. I think that's probably why.
Yeah. Okay. It's just always boggled my mind why they don't really pay more attention to gut health and what it's doing to everyone's health and what it's affecting. So anyway, so I'm so happy that Plexus is on board and they're really focusing so much on gut health because they do recognize it. So I think they're actually way ahead of the game, versus other companies out there that do nutritionals. So, what they've done basically is they've come up with products, and Beth, I got this on your page. They've come up with products and they kind of go along with this weed, seed, feed, and protect. And if you look at this, you can look at the weeding, you're going to look at the Probio 5 and the Biocleanse, because the Probio 5 was really formulated to help with intestinal yeast balance. It's got 2 billion CFUs versus our new probiotic that has 20 billion CFUs. So when you're talking about, and when I'm talking about weeding, seeding, feeding, and protecting, that's not to say that all of your customers need to be on all of these products. I'm not recommending that at all. I'm not saying that at all, because you're going to have some people that just want to take a probiotic. That's great. Let's get them on board. Let's get them trying it, because the more they fall in love with that, then they're hopefully going to want to start taking some of our other products because they're going to see how amazing they are. So when you're weeding, you're going to be talking to people who maybe struggle with a little bit of yeast imbalance and they want to get that out of their system. So this would be a great way for them to start. When you're looking at seeding, you're going to want to be repopulating some of the good bacteria in your gut that maybe has what do I say, gone away, Shawn, has been killed off by the bad bacteria.
That, or that dysbiosis, that imbalance, or if you've taken an antibiotic. When you take an antibiotic, it's wiping out not only the bug that you're trying to get rid of, but it's wiping out all of your good bacteria as well. And when you take an antibiotic, some of the bad bacteria and the yeast are able to repopulate where the other bacteria had been giving you protection and had been sort of covering over your gut lining. And so it's really important after you've had an illness, and you might think about that as another way of talking with people. Oh, you've been sick for a while. You might want to really consider taking a probiotic for the next month and seeing if you don't feel a difference and you don't feel a recovery from that. And then hopefully they would continue on after that as well.
Okay. So the Vital Biome, it's amazing. So it's got 8 different strains of probiotics in them. And these different strains bacteria, these different strains have all been clinically studied independently of one another to have different effects on our health. And what they've found is that they can reduce feelings of stress and anxiety, which we've all learned. They can promote relaxation. They help to stabilize your stress hormones. They improve your mood. And I can tell you that I've been on this for a week now. And today I was in the best mood today. I don't know if it was, I don't know. But it can also help relieve some of the GI distress that people struggle with. And it helps to boost our immune system, obviously. So, Shawn, do you want to add anything to that about any of these 8 strains, or anything about having 20 billion CFUs in the Vital Biome versus the Probio 5?
Sure. So I did have a chance, and I think you did too as well, Liza, at the convention to speak with some of the scientists who were there, who were representing Plexus and who have been part of the formulation process here. And there were a couple of questions that came up that I asked and I also listened in on. One, why would someone take Probio 5 versus taking Vital Biome? And Probio 5 has only 4 bacteria and 1 yeast strain, plus it has 3 enzymes in it. And that's what makes Probio 5 very unique, in that not only is it giving you bacteria and a good yeast, but it's also giving you enzymes that are known to break down problems. So if someone's complaining about any kind of chronic inflammatory disease, irritable bowel, or Crohn's, things like that, you definitely want to go with Probio 5 initially, because you want to help cleanse out, let those enzymes do their job of cleansing out the gut of some of those problem organisms and problem structures. And then you can talk about maybe adding in the Vital Biome. The CFU, that word, just means colony forming units. And we throw that word out there. And what that means is that if you were in the laboratory, 20 billion CFUs means that potentially you have at least 20 living organisms, 20 billion living bacteria in that capsule. Plexus, having spoken with them, guarantees the effectiveness of the probiotic through the expiration date. And so that's important to know. Now, I was talking with the scientist, and he said personally he keeps it in the fridge. Now, the Vital Biome, it's not required, it's not necessary, but he says why not keep it as fresh as possible. So his recommendation, when you get it, especially after you open it, throw it in the fridge. So it's packaged in an airtight kind of container, so it's good through shipping, it's good through getting to you. But once you open it up, you really should consume that within the month or so. And his recommendation, although it's not in the bottle, was to refrigerate it. Why take a chance of some of the numbers dropping down? When I asked him, well, what about putting my Vital Biome in a 7-day vitamin pack and keeping it at room temperature or whatever, he didn't think that was a problem at all. But just as an idea, maybe just suggest to people that they keep in the fridge, but it doesn't require that, and a lot of probiotics do. And so you might have a customer who's tried a probiotic before and was kind of upset they had to keep it in the fridge. This one doesn't have to, but you could. And then the breakdown of the 8 different bacteria within the 20 billion CFUs is proprietary. They're not really sharing with us the ratio of those bacteria, but they're assuring us that they were each chosen at the correct level to have the clinical effects that have been described individually. So that was their guarantee. That was their promise to me in a little, tech talk that I had with the scientists. And again, the number of CFUs is not as critical as it's important, but it's not as critical as the strains. So there's 20 billion CFUs. If you go on Amazon, look at other probiotics, you'll see all sorts of numbers and ranges, but all of those bacteria have not necessarily been clinically shown to have any positive effects. So keep in mind that Plexus has stood behind their clinical promises, and they're very, very deliberate about that. So I think that they've got the right combination of organisms at the right balance in a great product.
Right. I think it's awesome. And what I thought was really cool was that, these results that they showed with all this was after 30 days. And it was each individual strain promoted those results. So they don't even know what is going to happen when they have if they're going to have a synergistic effect on each other. Like, they studied it and they had no idea that akkermansia would increase. I mean, that wasn't even part of the plan. And then they found that after 30 days in an in vitro study that akkermansia did actually increase. So as
that was with Slim.
no, I talked to him about the vital biome as well.
I apologize. Okay, I knew that it got up with Slim. I didn't know it also got up with the Probio.
Yep. Yeah, okay. And that's what he said. He said we had no idea that was going to happen with us. So it's really cool to think about what could happen the longer we are on it. Different effects that it's going to have on our bodies. And when he talked about the refrigeration, I've started refrigerating mine too. But if you don't, it's not a big deal because they said that you're still going to have those same clinical effects through the expiration date, like Shawn talked about. But just make sure that you keep it at 70 and above, or 70 and below, excuse me, temperature-wise, like in your house. If your house is up to 80 or 90 for a while, you might want to think about throwing it in the fridge. What else did I want to say about it? Oh, and when you should take it. So you need to take it separately from the Probio 5. So take your Probio 5. If you're going to take both, you're going to take the Probio 5 at bedtime like we've always done. And then you're going to take the Vital Biome in between meals. And when we kind of pressed him a little bit about that, he said, okay, if you eat every 3 hours, take it in between, like within, like an hour and a half later. If you eat every hour, which I don't know if anybody eats every hour, but he said like a half an hour before or after. So just kind of keep those numbers in mind, like break it in half.
I think I was there for part of that conversation, and he was definitely saying, don't take Vital Biome with Biocleanse. Now, he was saying personally. Now, he wasn't speaking for Plexus at that moment. He was speaking as a personal scientist. He says, Biocleanse is made to help you cleanse and help you devoid. So why would you throw your Probio, or why would you throw your probiotic at the same time of something you're trying to cause you to void? So he didn't think that made any sense. But there's also only so many hours in the day that we have that we can figure this out. So I was thinking about this today, Liza. I think, and maybe you can help me with this. But if I were sitting down with someone who was saying, I'm not seeing many results from this, or I want to try these products, but of course, you want to give these products to people and have them use them at the right time so they will get the maximum benefit. So I was thinking maybe between the two of us, we can send out a schedule, maybe just kind of write down what would 2 or 3 different options look like to optimize the dosing or the taking of these. Because we all live on different schedules. And I know that's where I'm worse. Personally, I'm worse at remembering to take something between meals.
I agree.
So I just know I need that reminder, and I need to get into a better routine. So what do we take in the morning? What do we take at night? What do we take between meals without becoming a burden?
Right.
Get the benefit.
Oops, sorry. I agree completely. And I did press him further on the whole because he didn't recommend taking the Biocleanse at bedtime with your probiotic.
Right.
I do. And I always have. And I've still gotten great benefits. I've still gotten great benefits. And I said, well, if we're not getting up to go to the bathroom in the night, then what difference does it make? And he said, then you should be fine. He said, but for me, he said, when I take a Biocleanse, I have to go to the bathroom pretty much right away. And then you're going to be flushing all that good bacteria out. And you want to keep that in your body as long as possible.
Right.
So, but I do agree with you. Some people, they are going to have to be put on a schedule. And sometimes I recommend setting alarms. It does get to be tedious for some people, and they can't remember to do everything. I'm trying to figure out that time for me. So I get up and I take my Slim, and then I take my Biocleanse with that. And then I've been taking my Vital Biome with that. And then I wait like 2 hours and then I'll eat my breakfast. Well, some people can't do that. So they all have to kind of come up with their own schedule, what works with them.
Right.
But I do agree with you. And I think every ambassador is just going to have to work with each customer and their ambassadors to try and figure out the best schedule when they don't feel that they're getting the best benefits.
Right. So for me, what I'm considering is I get up, have a cup of coffee or something in the morning, a little breakfast, and then I have an hour commute. So I'm thinking about, taking my Vital Biome when I get to work, right? So that it's an hour after I've eaten and it's before I've had lunch. So I'm considering leaving my bottle at work or leaving a reminder on my desk that says, hey, take this now. Something like that, right? And we can all work with our individual folks to think of ways to take these things where they're not intrusive, but they make the best sense from a scientific standpoint.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. Okay. I'm going to move on to X Factor and then the Slim. But I just want to remind you guys, there are questions and answers. This is in your back office under tools, under shareables. It's the product information guide for Vital Biome. Please do yourself a favor and print this out because it has got so many answers to your questions. I could go through and read them all off now, but we'd be on here for a long time. And I'll get to all your questions in a little bit, you guys, but I just want to move on so we don't run out of time. So feed, that's where you're going to be talking about the Plexus Slim. The new Plexus Slim has the prebiotics in it, and it's going to help grow your good bacteria in your body, and that's the one that helps to increase the Akkermansia, which is going to affect your metabolism. And then it's going to start to kill off or push out some of that bad bacteria. And they were talking about some people experiencing some die-off. And Cindy Latham was talking about when you're killing off some of that bad bacteria, they're going to be releasing toxins as they're dying. So that's why you might get a little GI upset, little stomach upset. And I had a sour stomach for like the first 5 days. So if you do have somebody that's experiencing that, they can try taking some vitamin C, make sure they're drinking enough water. Shawn, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really, but that makes sense. I mean, you might have a little gas, you might have a little discomfort, but that's like changing, you're changing the diet,
Right.
That makes great sense that you would expect that. So I think I'd rather tell somebody up front that they could experience that rather than them run to you and say, oh, look what I experienced. I wasn't expecting that. So I think maybe just being right up front saying, you know what, you're introducing a lot of really good bacteria. You're going to have some die-off of some bad bacteria and some old bacteria. So you may expect a little bit of discomfort. That's normal. Fight through it for 5 days. It won't be horrible.
Right. Something else they suggested was somebody who's going to start on the Triplex or the Vital Biome and the Slim is to start them on the probiotic first or the Probio 5 first and the Biocleanse and have that work on their system for a few days and then add in the Slim, maybe just a half a pack. It depends on, each customer. If they do experience something like that and they started the Slim, then maybe have them back off to a half a pack. That would be my suggestion, and that's what we kind of heard from the scientists too. So the next thing I want to talk about is the X Factor Plus. So that is going to be on here under Protect. So I want to look at my notes. Shawn, do you have anything you want to say about the X Factor before I kind of talk about it a little bit?
Well, there was one statistic that they shared with us at conference that I walked away with kind of stunned. And that was market analysis said that about 50% of all Americans take a one-a-day vitamin, but their stats show that only 28% or 23% of Plexus ambassadors were getting a monthly shipment of the daily vitamin, which seemed to me kind of crazy because to me, if half the country is taking a vitamin, that seems like the first place to go with someone. Hey, likely you're taking a one-a-day vitamin. Why don't you just buy it from us? And then once they like that, then we can start adding in. Because let's face it, Slim is weird. I mean, who else takes that kind of product? It's not something we're replacing. It's something we're adding to our schedule. So I think the easiest thing to convince someone of is number one, the daily vitamin, and then the second thing would be the probiotics because that's become such a hot topic. Although we know that Slim has amazing effects, I just think that's the harder thing to convince someone of because it's this new weird thing this crystal light thing you pour in your water and you don't know really anything about it. But I thought that was really interesting that even as ambassadors, it appears that the one-a-days are not as popular as you would expect, and the price is right in line with anything else.
Oh, you disappeared, Liza.
Thank you. So a lot of people are on multivitamins like you talked about. 50% of Americans, they said. But so many of them use really cheap forms. So this is really a high potency multivitamin. And the ones that other people are on aren't as bioavailable as the X Factor Plus. Shawn, can you kind of expand a little bit on the bioavailability and why that's important?
Sure. So there are different forms of vitamins, some of which are cheaper than others, and some of which are more equally or better absorbed into our gut. And I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I just know that the formulation of Plexus, those are the most bioavailable forms of the vitamin. So they're going to be more easily absorbed into your bloodstream through your gut. But keep in mind, if your gut is gunked up with competing bacteria, that they may be minimizing the absorption. So I think that's where your suggestion was, have someone start with Probio 5 makes sense, because it's going to help cleanse out their gut before they start taking these products, and they're going to see a better result. It's just like doing skincare. You know, if you don't have a clean face, you can't expect serums and other things to get down into the pores and into the problem areas. The other thing is the aloe vera, we know, is important in the vitamin, right? Because it helps with the absorption. Very important in the absorption.
Yeah, exactly. And with this one, you have, the antioxidants, you have the polyphenols, which they had no idea was going to affect the menopause symptoms. Sonia Dudley got up, was it Sonia Dudley or Helen McFadden? One of those two. Helen? She got up and talked about how it reduced her hot flashes, and they really had no idea that was going to happen. And they determined it was from the polyphenols, which is, the grapeseed extract. I think there's some apple something extract in there. I don't even know. There's a list of the polyphenols. It's probably on this question and answer sheet. But the grapeseed extract, they have that in the Probio 5, and I know some people do get a reduction in their hot flashes just from taking the triplex. But this has 1,600% more grapeseed extract than the Probio 5. So that's a huge amount. That's a huge difference. So, and with the super bioavailability in this product, it's going to be amazing for energy and just all kinds of things. And you're going to be able to get all of those nutrients into your cells that maybe you weren't getting before. And they were talking about, in some of the cheap forms, they use binders, lubricants, and coatings that affect the absorption. And so that might be why some people, they take a multivitamin and they don't really feel any difference. And I can tell you that after being on this multivitamin for just a week, if I'm talking really fast, that's probably why, because I have so much energy, I don't know what to do with it. So that is amazing.
Take like a really cheap, like Centrum or some of those cheaper, really common vitamins. You can put them in water. You can put them in Coca-Cola, and they won't break down. So yeah, they have to break down to be absorbed, and then the form of the nutrient also has to be the most bioavailable. So I think we've got that covered very, very well.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, and they also talk about that 90% of the population has inadequate intakes of vitamin D and vitamin E. And vitamin D plays an important function in bone density, and vitamin E is essential in cardiovascular health. And then B vitamins, they affect everything from your metabolism to your nervous system to your energy to your mood. So I think that's why I'm having, between this and the Vital Biome, this crazy mood. I mean, it's awesome, and this crazy energy. So you really getting a super powered multivitamin, and they actually have filed for a patent on this vitamin because it's that amazing. They don't want anybody to steal this. And people probably will try and figure out how they have formulated this because it's that amazing. I thought there was something else I wanted to say about this. Oh, another thing it can do for you is it helps to reduce harmful compounds. So people who eat a diet high in processed foods or sugars or red meat, that can create harmful compounds in your gut. And one of them is ammonium. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing that correct, Shawn?
Ammonium, yep.
Okay, so they've found that the X Factor Plus actually can help reduce those harmful compounds. And do you have anything else you want to say about that?
No, I don't recall anything specific about that. No, and there was one more thing that was new in the new vitamin, Liza.
I know, and I'm trying to find where it is in my notes. Oh, and another thing that it did was it also increased it increased the Akkermansia, and it increased the I can't even pronounce these bifidobacterium.
Yeah, bifidobacterium.
Bifidobacterium and the lactobacillus.
Yep. So the lactobacillus, you'll see lactobacillus, that's in your yogurts and everything else. But again, that's considered a good, healthy bacteria. I think what's interesting is that Akkermansia was only described 10 or 11 years ago. So this is one of those new hot bacteria that are beginning to be described. You might have someone ask you, why can't we put Akkermansia then in our Probio? And the reason is it's too techy, but it's an anaerobic organism. So it cannot survive in air, and they can't capture it well enough to put it into a tablet. But just know that it's already in your gut, and that these products have been found to increase those numbers, and that's really important. And but it also reduces the ammonium, which is a toxin basically for your gut, for your body.
Yeah, that's not good. So it's interesting that this also increases the Akkermansia. So if somebody's on all of these products, I'm hoping to God that I'm going to start seeing some differences with my weight loss, because it's something that I've struggled with for my whole life. But based on what I've been seeing in the last couple of weeks, and since the Plexus Slim has been launched, or the new one, it was already good before, and now I just think people are just going to have incredible success with these products. They recommend taking the X Factor Plus right before you eat, because it is that potent, and those ingredients are going to be absorbed quickly. And they also said that you are going to see results in a matter of days on these products. So take it before you eat. If you get a sensitive stomach, you can take one before breakfast and then one before dinner. So some people had a couple questions that I just wanted to look at. So the Probio 5 or Vital Biome is good for someone who has been on antibiotics for a period of time, especially for someone who say they were on them for about 4 or 5 rounds, so say over a month. I guess your question is, would you recommend one over the other one? Shawn, what would you say? I know they said that there's a strain in the Vital Biome that actually is good for antibiotics.
There is, but there's also the enzymes. And so there's that cellulase and the other enzymes that are in the Probio. That's what makes that so special. One of the questions you may have heard someone say, well, why don't they just combine Probio 5 with Vital Biome and make one probiotic? This is confusing. This is the troubling. And there were a couple of different reasons given. One was, so much research has been done already with Probio 5. If they simply added other strains to it, it would negate their ability to talk about the healthful benefits of Probio 5. So in the pharmaceutical world, you can't just throw two things together and then talk about what will happen. You have to start all over again. So they purposely put those bacteria together. But again, like I said, if someone's talking about any kind of irritable bowel or immune issues, then I would go with Probio 5. If their gut health overall is pretty good and there seems to be no issues, then just go with the regular Vital Biome. That would be my common sense response. If they complain of any digestive issues, go with Probio 5 first.
Okay. Do you see any issues of taking the Vital Biome with the Slim?
No.
I believe the scientists said that was fine for us to be doing that.
Absolutely. Again, some people, does everyone take Slim first thing in the morning, or do they drink it on the way to work, or do they,
I drink it at noon.
Beth drinks it later in the morning. So I I don't think there's any problem with that at all. Just you don't want to take it on a full stomach, but drinking it with the liquid would be fine.
Okay. So that's really it in a nutshell, you guys. I know it's kind of a lot of information, but you can, again, get a lot of this info in your back office under tools, under shareables. You'll be able to find the product info. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm going to stop the recording.
Really quick, Liza.
Yeah.
Let me just say one more thing. We've been talking about probiotics tonight, and I mentioned earlier that probiotics are living bacteria that are put into your gut, but I don't think we didn't define prebiotics. I don't know if that's clear for everyone here or not.
Oh, good. Thanks, Shawn.
So prebiotics are the food for the probiotics. Prebiotics are simply the food that we would consume, and a lot of it's roughage. A lot of it is carbohydrates, things that we've gotten away from. So if you think about our diet in the Western world, we're now eating more processed foods. We're eating less food that came right out of the earth, and we're getting less fiber, and we're getting less of those complex carbohydrates. And that's what's in the Slim. The new Slim has this XOS, and that XOS is a polysaccharide, which we know we don't digest, but is health food. It's health food. It's miracle grow, if you will, for the bacteria. So just get those two words straight in your head. The prebiotics are food for the bacteria, which is what the XOS is in the Slim, and the probiotics are living organisms that are living in your gut that are repopulating the good bacteria.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's why, am I muted? No, okay. So that's why it falls under the feed. So it's kind of like Miracle Grow. You're feeding that good bacteria. So thanks for clarifying that, Shawn. I appreciate that. Does anybody else have any other questions? No, we're all good. All right, I'm going to stop recording.